Hi there, in this video I'm sharing a case from one of our clients who literally made $7,000 in just a couple of days, all thanks to long-term funding. He shared this amazing opportunity in community calls, our private Telegram chat exclusively for clients of our service. The clients posted this trade in private communities thread. Then, together in the chat, we found a good hedge, constantly shared our observations, and discussed how to enter the trade properly so everyone could get the share of their profit. Even complete beginners understood everything perfectly, followed the steps, and got their first profits from long-term funding. Now let me explain the essence of a case a bit more. Using our arbitrage scanner, the client found a spread on long-term funding for Kaito coin. Here's what the situation looked like. On the LevX exchange, the funding was minus 0.5% per hour, while on BingX, the spread was minus 0.3% every 4 hours. The client opened a long position on LevX, where the funding was charged more frequently at minus 0.5%, and at the same time opened a short hedge on BingX. As a result, every 4 hours, he received payments from both sides, and eventually, after a day or two, he managed to earn $7,000 in pure profit. The client opened the arbitrage scanner, went into the funding section, found this great opportunity, and then shared it in community calls. And not only he earned, but most of our community as well. If you want to learn how to create the same kind of cases, then I'll explain it to you right after our client's video. So watch till the end.
Hello everyone. I want to quickly talk about the long-term funding on the Kaito coin. We entered the LevX exchange. Here we had a negative funding rate of minus 0.5%, so we were hiding a long position here. The funding was credited once per hour. We hedged by opening a short on the BingX exchange. Here the funding was about minus 0.3%, but it was credited once every 4 hours. So over a 4-hour period, we get about 2.5% net profit. I entered with market orders, opening orders of 500 coins each, gradually building a position of 40 to 60,000 coins, which is 50 to 60,000 USDT. It depended a little on the exchange rate because it was fluctuating. So how did I enter the trade? Here you can see my overall entries into Kaito over the last 2 days. There were 4 periods. Sometimes I exited because I had to step away and couldn't monitor the situation. Sometimes I re-entered when the funding decreased. The most interesting moment for me happened right here. We opened a fairly large position at a good price. I entered almost without any spread. That is, it was less than 0.1%. So in fact, I paid more in commissions for opening the orders. Accordingly, I entered here at 2 in the morning at 1:13. On the LevX exchange, it was also around 1.13. I had to exit here at 1 in the afternoon and then re-enter after the funding was credited. What was the reason for re-entering? Actually, there were 2 reasons. The main reason was that at that time, BingX exchange was charging minus 1%, and I didn't want to lose 0.5% for no reason at all. That's why I figured it would be much more profitable for me to exit the trade and re-enter, even though I would lose a little on the price spread, plus the entry commission. Still, I saved about 0.3% net. If I had stayed in the trade, I would have lost. We exited and re-entered. Also, you can see here that the price has grown quite a bit. Accordingly, the short on BingX gave me a minus 6,000 on the coin itself. At the same time, the short on LevX gave me a plus 6,000. I transferred USDT back to BingX, leveled up my margin, and felt much more confident in my trade. Why did I use 10 times leverage? The rest of the deposit was tied up, but the funding rate was very attractive, so the deposit was working, but I kept it ready to transfer as additional margin if needed. But I also tried to monitor the entire trade closely, staying at the screen so I could adjust the position or add a margin if necessary. I also want to show you right now what's happening with the Kaito coin. The position was reduced from just under 50,000 coins to 30,000. But the yield isn't as attractive now, though it is still ongoing. So at the moment we're getting minus 0.075% every 4 hours on BingX and minus 0.16% every hour on LevX. What was the story? So for the position at the moment, my average entry price is 1.1339, while on LevX the entry is 1.3457. Even though the entry price for the long is higher than for the short, the spread difference is less than 0.01%. So basically you can almost disregard it in this kind of funding. A single funding payment completely covers both the commission costs and the price spread. At the moment on the Livex exchange, I have a realized net P&L already realized. So basically funding minus commission is almost 4,400 USDT, whereas on BingX the realized P&L is 890. So you could say 3,300 for this trade. That is, it's just over a day. I earned almost 4,000 USDT net. I'll also attach screenshots of the last two trades from the exchanges on my mobile phone, where you can clearly see the P&L on one exchange and on the other, and you'll be able to calculate what the spread was over this day. I also want to show a little bit about how many coins I'm currently earning, because the funding rate has decreased, but it still remains quite attractive. That's why, for now, I don't see any reason to exit the trade, even though it's at minus 0.16%. Nevertheless, every hour I get 65 USDT. Accordingly, that's about 1,500 USDT per day. It's still very nice and very rewarding. I'll also scroll through here so you can see the moments when the payments were credited. So as you can see, at that time there was an open position for 50,000 coins. The funding rate was good then, about 0.5%, and I was getting 270 USDT every hour. I also want to immediately explain why on this exchange the paid commission is shown with a minus sign. Well, it's logical since we're paying the commission. If the funding wasn't in our favor here, it would just show the amount. But since the funding is in our favor, the number appears with a minus sign, which means this amount is credited to us each time. You can also notice here that there was a moment when the funding for the Kaito coin dropped quite significantly. That is, the accruals were literally just 10 or 16 USDT. This lasted for almost 10 hours. But if we flip back one more page, you can see when those very attractive funding moments happened. That is, a position was opened for only 30,000 coins, and yet it was yielding on average about 200 USDT per hour. Then we had a brief lull, and after that another pretty good payout.
So that was the case. $7,000 in just a couple of days. For some, it might sound almost impossible, but for our clients, as you can see, it's as simple as that. And if you want to make such cool cases yourself in 2025, with long-term funding, or even just with crypto arbitrage, then get our subscription. Starting from the business plan, you'll get access to all our arbitrage tools, plus community calls, which we mentioned earlier. Community calls is just a part of our large Telegram community, but it's where people are ready to help each other, share interesting spreads, and even reveal their own strategies. So don't wait, check out our product, explore it in detail, maybe try a test day, and then join our friendly community where everyone is ready to teach, explain, and maybe share a successful spread with you. This was Arbitrage Scanner. See you soon. Bye bye.